Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a really interesting mix of insights. We think it can offer a fresh way to look at the week ahead. We're focusing on July 28th to August 3rd, 2025. And according to the material we've got, this week looks, well, pretty packed. Strategic challenges, but also chances for some real personal shifts. So to help us unpack all this, we're drawing from two sources, both from Tarot by High C. They've got this knack for blending intuition and astrology. We have their forecast for the week, which is super insightful, and also this really compelling story they shared. It's called Glass and Voltage.
Yeah, and our goal today really is to help you see how these things connect, how the, cosmic stuff, which can feel a bit abstract, and this very concrete story, how they can light up the path ahead for you, maybe bring some clarity, or even help you think about power in your own life in a maybe different way.
Okay, so let's get straight into it. The core themes for this week, July 28th to August 3rd. Forecast really lays it out there. Things like action, consequences, curveballs, reality check,
Yeah.
disrupting the status quo, and strategic power plays. It paints this picture where, like, charm is a weapon and strategy is a survival skill. I love this phrase. Power doesn't have to be loud, it just has to be intentional. In your experience, is that idea of quiet power hard for people, especially when things feel intense?
Oh, definitely. It's a huge point.
Yeah.
We often think power has to be, loud, forceful, visible. But this week really emphasizes that intentionality. Could be strategic inaction even, or just observing, shifting the energy subtly. And the source notes, like you said, the challenge isn't if we move forward, it's how. It says, think precision strikes instead of explosions. So it's really asking us to hold our ambition accountable,
Right.
to sharpen our wit, clean up our strategy, and crucially, stop saying yes just to keep the peace. That's a big one.
Precision,
Yeah.
the resonance. And I also picked up on this tension it describes between wanting connection but also needing freedom. That feels like a constant balancing act. How does that tie into the astrology behind all this, especially Mars moving into Libra?
That tension is absolutely central. So the big thing astrologically is Mars planet of action, drive, assertion, shifting into Libra this week. But what's really key is how fast it starts making connections or aspects with the big outer planets. We're talking Uranus, Saturn, Sedna, Neptune, Pluto. When Mars hits these slower moving points, it acts like a trigger. It kicks off a deeper evolutionary shift. It can bring up significant events, maybe challenging ones, sure, but the idea is they bring clarity to our journey, our purpose, both personally and, collectively.
Yeah, you can almost feel that acceleration it implies. The source does give a heads up, though. It says the energy may be a bit frenetic, perhaps rebellious, somewhat dangerous.
Yeah.
Actions could be impulsive, maybe lead to accidents. It feels a bit volatile.
It can be, yes. There's an edge to it.
And it also mentions feeling these stirrings of transformation and disruption building up through August, like we're getting ready for something bigger, especially with eclipse season coming in September. So this week feels like prep work.
Kind of a preview, yeah.
Yeah.
Setting the stage.
Okay, so that's the big picture energy, that tension. But let's zoom in on Mars and Libra specifically. It's a longer transit, August 6th to September 22nd, but we're feeling it now. Themes like balance, fairness, harmony, but tied to an intensified struggle for equality. It suggests our actions are driven by a desire for peace and justice. How does that play out?
Well, Mars in Libra really puts the focus on how we assert ourselves when peace and justice are the goal. It's a paradox, almost. It asks, how do you push for equality without just creating more conflict? How do you use your power constructively? The advice here is pretty clear. Blend assertiveness with diplomacy. Cooperation, collaboration. It really underlines the need to stay in balance and avoid extremes, and reminds us powerfully that we can disagree without combusting. We don't have to fight dirty.
That sounds skillful. It needs real nuance. But sometimes, trying to see all sides, doesn't that just lead to getting stuck? The source mentions a tendency towards indecisiveness, a lack of concrete action, because you're trying to weigh everything.
Exactly. That's the shadow side.
And it warns about people-pleasing ourselves into silent resentment or even passive-aggressive behaviors, which nobody enjoys. The advice is so direct. Practice saying no without an essay. Why is that simple no so hard for us, especially in this kind of energy?
It's a really delicate balance, isn't it? That simple no, it feels loaded. Often I think we mix up saying no to a request with saying no to the person or the relationship itself. We fear rejection or conflict. And what's interesting is the source also links this Mars energy right now to the spot where the forthcoming Virgo solar eclipse will happen on September 21st. So it's like this week is giving you clues, a chance to start understanding what that eclipse might bring up for you next month, what imbalances need attention.
Fascinating how it all connects. Okay, so we've got the big picture, the Mars and Libra specifics. But when we look at the daily aspects, that's where the real push and pull comes alive, right? Let's talk Friday. Big combo here. Mars trine Uranus. Brilliant ideas, quick decisions, wanting to break the rules. Sounds exciting.
Super dynamic, yeah, that aha moment energy.
But then almost right away, it's countered by Mars opposite Saturn RX. Okay, RX means retrograde. Can you quickly unpack what Saturn retrograde does here? How might someone actually feel that energetic whiplash on Friday? Inspired then, blocked.
Absolutely. So RX, or retrograde, means the planet's energy feels more internal.
Yeah.
It's about review, reflection, sometimes delays, or things from the past coming up. Saturn is structure, responsibility limits. So Saturn RX asks us to look inward at our structures, our commitments, maybe where our strategy is weak. When Mars opposes Saturn RX on Friday, it really does feel like hitting the brakes.
Yeah.
Just as you have that brilliant Uranian idea, bam, obstacles, doubts. You feel inspired but blocked, or sharp but second-guessing.
Ugh, yeah. That how do I actually do this feeling?
Yeah, exactly. The key is not to let Saturn shut down the Uranus spark. Use Saturn's energy to build a solid plan for that brilliant idea. Innovation needs strategy. So yeah, expect maybe obstacles and delays, but see them as prompts to strategize better.
Okay, strategy over shutdown. Got it. Then Saturday. The energy shifts again. Mars opposite Neptune RX. The source calls this a call to surrender, to tap into a higher perspective, trusting spiritual forces. Shift from darkness into light. Sounds gentler.
Gentler, perhaps, but also potentially confusing if you're expecting clear answers. Neptune dissolves boundaries. It asks for faith, for letting go, and right alongside that, Saturday brings the full moon in Aquarius, which is anything but gentle in some ways. It's described as intentional rebellion, bringing surprises and revelations.
Ah, so not just surrender, but maybe surrendering to rebellion.
Kind of. It awakens the inner rebel, the eccentric, the nonconformist, the innovator. The core connection here is about zooming out, seeing the big picture, and aligning with your authentic values. No more performing, just being you.
Authenticity. Yeah, the source really hammers that home for the full moon. It says, it's wide-eyed and unapologetic, lighting up the gap between who we are privately and who we are when we think everyone's watching. Oof. Throws out these questions. What communities are we part of? Who do we perform for? And is it time to stop trying to be liked and start being real? That feels like a major challenge.
It is. But it's also framed as a potent release, a deeply healing, a powerful cleansing opportunity. It's a chance to hit reset, really clear the decks before eclipse season hits properly, and it might even help resolve energies or issues that have been lingering since, say, February of this year, tying up loose ends.
Okay, potent release. Then Sunday wraps the week with Mars trine Pluto RX. The words here are intense, calculated, determination, confidence, passion. Sounds like a power day. Pitch a bold idea, define a boundary, make a move, and that phrase again. Stop playing small, this is power disguised as poise. Wow.
Strong energy, definitely. Deep transformation potential. Pluto digs deep. But there's an important caveat. Because it's Pluto, it can turn manipulative if used to control others instead of empowering ourselves. The focus has to be on self-empowerment, using that intensity for your own growth and truth. On the upside, it's fantastic for speaking truth that's been bubbling under the surface. Not in a performative way, not apologizing for it, just owning your power with poise.
Okay, that's a lot of intense energy packed into 1 week. We've broken down the astrology. Now let's make it even more tangible. Let's turn to story time, glass and voltage. This narrative from Tarot by High C really brings these themes: precision, power, chaos, choice to life. So let's set the scene. Neo-lexicon. Think gleaming towers, tech everywhere. Decisions are coded into satellites, secrets fly on encrypted networks. Our main character is Eris Vaughn. She's standing high above the city, watching protests about something called Civil Code 12. But Eris isn't about revolution in the streets. She wants evolution, something deeper, more calculated.
And it's fascinating how she immediately reflects the week's themes. The story says charm was a weapon for her, used precisely, and her plan for dealing with the chaos, this precision disruption of a corporation called Dynatek. It wasn't about revenge. The story says it was calculus. That's such a direct echo of the astrology, precision strikes instead of explosions.
What does seeing it in her story add, do you think, beyond just the forecast?
That's a great question. I think it grounds it, makes it human. The forecast tells us what energies are at play. But Eris's story shows us the how and the why, the internal struggle, the choice between, say, ego-driven reaction and purpose-driven precision. Her plan, Protocol Athena, was all about that precision disruption. She literally thinks, no explosions, just fractures, calculated and contained. It was about undermining Dynatek subtly, a leak here, market dip there, an internal betrayal, reshaping power from within. And that internal piece is key, because just like the astrology highlights that connection versus freedom tension, Eris feels it deeply. The story mentions her conflict. Connection versus freedom, love versus mission. Most days, mission won. But in this moment, she's questioning the cost. That internal push-pull feels very Mars and Libra.
Exactly. And then chaos hits. An unexpected event. A hover drone exploded midair, totally unplanned. It throws everything sideways. And this becomes her real test. Her immediate reaction, abort Athena. Her priority shifts instantly. Stabilize Eastern Sector. No civilian casualties.
And in that moment,
Yeah.
that's where she perfectly embodies the week's deeper message. Faced with chaos, she chooses. She chooses precision over power, clarity over conquest. She forces her ambition to answer to purpose, not ego, even when things go wrong. And her partner, Cade, sees it. He tells her, I believe in what you're becoming. Eris has this realization then that the discomfort wasn't weakness, it was direction. Her story just nails that need for strategic patience and authentic, purposeful action the stars are pointing to.
So bringing this all together for you listening, what does this deep dive really offer? Looking at the astrology for July 28th to August 3rd and through Eris Mon's story, it seems this week is a really potent invitation. An invitation to act strategically, yes, but also to embrace discomfort as maybe a guide. And to make sure our ambitions, our actions, are truly aligned with something deeper, a higher purpose.
Yeah, it really highlights finding that balance, that tricky balance between being assertive and being diplomatic, knowing when to push but also when to yield, and learning to speak your truth clearly, calmly, without needing to apologize for it. It's about that intentionality over sheer volume, recognizing that real power often has, well, poise.
So as you go through your week, maybe something to reflect on, to mull over, how could you embody that idea of power disguised as poise in your own life this week? Where might you choose precise, intentional action instead of just, making a lot of noise?